Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to California Free Radio. I hope you had a delightful holiday season. Our team did. As you may have noticed immediately, the show is better looking tonight because Kurt's not here. But Scott, we've got your cheery face. How the hell are you?
Hey, doing well. Happy New Year. It's been 2 weeks since we've been out here creating a ruckus out here in California.
And a tremendous amount happening. And as always, even though the year has changed, our methodology has not. We are live on California Free Radio at Netter Mike at TaxFighter7 on the platform known as X, where I've got some interesting news before we get the show started. And we are live on my LinkedIn feed at Mike Netter, our Facebook groups, including California Patriot Coalition page. And of course, if that isn't enough for you, Outrage, the YouTube channel where you can go back and watch the show and share with your friends. Before I open tonight, I want to say, Scott, what we do works. And I know there's a lot of hyperbole in the local news, and tonight we're going to be focused on corruption and fraud, and I'll open with that in 1 second here. But for everybody out there who watches that, we appreciate you, and what we do works. And Scott, I want to start you off, and you already know these stats, with a few statistical pop-offs, if you don't mind, on my X feed alone. Are you ready, Scott?
I am ready.
Okay. Last year, meaning for the year 2025, and those of you that know me, and even if you don't, I'm kind of a math geek. My X feed reached 100 million views.
Wow.
And again,
that's
I might
like a
think
real
I'm
number.
something. That's a real number. And that's more a lot than many of the so-called legacy networks get, Scott. And the engagement rate there.
He needs to turn his phone off.
I know, I do.
Live
and
radio.
The engagement was 8 to 9%, meaning not only did 100 million people tune in, close to 9 to 10 million actually engaged, had a reaction to what we posted. That includes our shows, that includes a lot of things that we put up. That's not counting the Facebook groups that we do. That's not counting the LinkedIn looks. That's not counting Netter News, which I might remind you again, get it, it's free, and you all have that kind of money, which literally last year probably had a total of 3 million views on its own. What we do works, and your voices do get heard. I was shocked by something the other night. Scott, are you ready for this?
I am ready.
Little old Mike Netter, one of my posts, which was on Venezuela, got reposted by Elon Musk. And kudos to John Fleischman a little bit, who's been on our show and a buddy of ours. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And people tell me about it. And then Fleischman made the comment, not only does he own the platform, he's actually the richest man in the world. Elon is back on his platform. He's reposted Susan Crabtree and other friends of mine. I feel less special today than I did a couple days ago, but neither here nor there. But my point is, what we do works. Your voice is getting heard. And why we've got people running around doing bad things, never, ever get in front of a car that has armed people in it, especially if they're federal officials. It will end badly. That's how the liberal left is trying to get their voice heard. We get our voice heard in a peaceful and orderly manner through what things we're doing, like in California Free Radio. And I want to stress that again, and I want you to really understand the difference. In 2025, we had the tragedy of Charlie Kirk. And we made the stark difference that when Charlie Kirk died, and when a Democrat dies, the Republicans react entirely different, or the conservatives, I should really say, than the Democrats do. Or I'm going to not even say Democrats, it's the crazy liberals. We react in a logical manner. And that's why actually you do not see large groups of liberals. You see some liberals with big followings, but you don't see these large group of liberals clustered together on really any platform. And that's important to note because they've been fractionalized, they remain fractionalized. We remain more on a united front. And what we have to stay united on right now, now that we have a federal government that actually is doing something about it, is pay attention to the corruption and fraud. Scott, what's the name of our show?
I'm sorry. What's the name of?
Our
Oh,
show.
California Free Radio.
Thank you. I'm just testing Scott because he's been off for a couple of weeks.
Seeing if I'm awake. Yes, thank you very much.
The fraud in California, and God bless Nick Shirley and God bless the people doing it. We need to get more people like it out there. Exceeds by light years what has happened in Minnesota. And Tim Walz looks like he's been referred for indictment today. And I want to, Scott, present you with two words: corruption, okay, and fraud. And could you know kind of what the difference between the two words are? You have an F behind you for Newsom. I hope you were at least a C student.
Corruption and fraud. Corruption usually means that the people making the decision are benefiting from the contract, whereas fraud usually means that the government, usually in this case, is being defrauded, or people are defrauding the government. Is that accurate enough?
That's a correct answer. That is a perfect answer, Scott. You can move that F behind you to a C, unlike Gavin.
Yeah, thanks.
You know why I think that's important? Let me tell you why I think that's important. Those have merged a little bit. We kind of expect, and nobody jumped too hard. I mean, is our chat open? I want to see what comments we get tonight. I probably don't have it open right now. But we kind of expect groups of people, like the Somalis, like a lot of the homeless, and it looks like I got to connect on my back here.
Yeah, you're there. You were just frozen. At least your video was. Your audio was still good.
Okay, so hopefully it still is. All right. The internet in my area is already, we may have troubles tonight, so be prepared. The difference, really, what we're seeing right now, and we're going to see, not a prediction, we will see with Gavin Newsom and the Democrats of California, is that corruption has been a part of politics for a very long time. Scott, to your point, they do things for a personal gain, for something to.
Are you still there?
All right, we're going to have to try take two here.
I hear take two. So, yes, like Gavin Newsom makes a decision, steals $100 million in California fire money, and gives a contract to his wife's company. Corruption. And I understand that one of the reasons that Tim Walz was put on the vice presidential ticket is because he was able to raise, he promised $1.6 billion, right? And where do you think he was getting that? From his Somali buddies who was getting all these contracts.
I'm back on the air, right? We got I'm
You
back
are there.
too. Okay, so that's exactly what I'm driving at here. We have this, especially in Los Angeles, which is why we're going to kind of do a panel thing tonight with who we're going to bring on in a second. Corruption and fraud are starting to merge. In other words, the people, even if they're corrupt, we expect them to supervise the fraud, do corruption so they can stay in office. Now it looks pretty definitive, like Tim Walz, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Gavin Newsom and many of his people around him are pretty aware of what's been happening. So corruption and fraud are starting to merge. It's interesting because I had sent you right before the show opened, it was announced that Donald Trump's administration is actually bringing in someone to act kind of as the district attorney for the United States to flush this out. These are really big numbers, everybody out there. You have to comprehend how big these numbers are. They are absolutely huge, billions and billions. Hello, Stephanie. Thank you. It's good to see you back after the holidays. The numbers are beyond comprehension of just the fraud. I put out a Kevin Kiley video on my X feed at Netter Mike earlier tonight, and one of the guys commenting on the Kevin Kiley video, Scotty had a pretty good point that the fraud just in EDD alone in California exceeded about 10 years of foreign aid to Israel. And that really made me stop and think. The scope of what's happening in California is unprecedented.
You're talking about the COVID fraud.
The COVID EDD fraud, that's just the EDD fraud. That's what we know about. You throw in the homeless where we don't know where the money went. And I have a feeling that if we don't know where it went, it didn't go well. And we're uncovering more and more every day, like in Minnesota. And you got to remember Minnesota, that's meaning Minneapolis. And we have a lot of nooks and crannies. But to me, and Amy Reichart, my buddy, does a marvelous job reporting on San Diego. But to me, the heartbeat of corruption, as documented by conviction, and the foundation of fraud is Los Angeles and Los Angeles County. Yes, you are right. Illegals money, it's unaccounted for. We bring in people, I want to bring in someone, Scott, tonight who's smarter than us. By the way, that wasn't a really hard lift.
It's a low bar, yes.
Yeah, low bar. And I'd like to bring in someone who I put in Netter News quite often. He writes marvelous columns. He actually researches much of these on the fraud and deception in Los Angeles. And also, I think what's an important story before I bring Elliot in is he also talks about how we kind of got here from there in LA. I know you're watching this up and down the state, but you have to pay attention. Because how LA got here from there, just as how California got here from there, how Venezuela got here from there, should be a warning to everybody in California. Bring in our guest, Elliot Cohen, if you could. Elliot, how the heck are you?
I'm good. Excited to be here.
Are those earmuffs, or are you trying to imitate the Red Baron?
Well, they're headphones, so I can precisely hear you.
Very good. Well, that's what I think a lot of Democrats don't want to do, but I'm glad a lot of conservatives do. Elliot, I want you to start telling people, I'm going to go ahead and do some extra blasting out here. Tell people a little bit about you. I put it out in the newsletter today. We've had a lot of guests on the show. We've had Congress people. We've had Dinesh D'Souza. And most of you, I know, saw the name. Elliot's a buddy of mine, so I could say this. Didn't say, holy crap, Elliot Cohen is on the show tonight. Leave the kids at school. We're not even going to pick them up. So, Elliot, tell people who you are and a little bit why you do what you do.
Well,
by the way, before you do that, if you did leave the kids at school, the show is available again on YouTube and taped. So please go pick them up because it's going to be cold tonight. Back to you, Elliot.
Okay. Well, the reason why I do what I do is that, I'm aware of what's going on in the city and the state, and I'm disgusted. And I write these articles out of disgust. I want to do something about it, and I can't just yell out the window and expect change. So I try to, argue a point of what's happening and what needs to be done. And every once in a while, I offer a solution. And back in 2009, I got involved with the neighborhood council because there was going to be a huge
Hold on, I'm
construction
gonna
project.
stop you for 1 second. I know you're my guest, but it's my hood, brother. You need to explain to people, because you and I are political advocates, what a neighborhood council is, because most communities don't have them.
Okay. In Los Angeles, we used to be blessed with a high functioning neighborhood council. And this was started when the Valley, San Fernando Valley, tried to succeed from Los Angeles and become its own city. So, in order to give power back to the neighborhoods, a neighborhood council system was initiated where theoretically, the council was going to be the eyes and ears of the city council person, and they would give advice to the city council person where traffic light needs, whether this development was going to be a good development for the neighborhood or a bad development of the neighborhood, or where more police protection was needed, and things like that. Well, it got to a point where it started to become effective. And since then, unfortunately, I think most people on the neighborhood councils, and I think they're well over 90 right now, would tell you that it's been hollowed out very much, so that most of these neighborhood councils are just safety valves, like on a steam boiler, for people to vent, but nothing really changes.
Now, I'm gonna tell you my impression of them and why I'm having you on and wanted you to talk about it. I viewed them as kind of a broader neighborhood watch in a very large city where hopefully if you saw something going on, fraud, corruption, that police and district attorneys couldn't get to, not that Gascon really cared. And my humble opinion, although I don't live in the city of Los Angeles, I live in the county, is that they've kind of suppressed it because they don't want the people really looking at these things. In other words, to me, if you had one in Van Nuys or out where you live, you would see there was a daycare center, for example, where there was possibly no children, or a senior home that was getting money from the state where there was possibly nothing but coffins. That's the kind of thing that you could get, that although the neighborhood councils weren't designed for it, kind of a ground level. And I want, you can agree or disagree with me on that, but I feel that that was really designed originally as a community voice.
It was designed as a community voice, but now, interestingly enough, the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment that supervises all these neighborhood councils has basically made anybody, now these are elected positions by people in the neighborhood, made them, the people, into city employees. So if you're a city employee, you're not allowed to criticize Mayor Bass, the city council, or any of the departments that you might interact, no matter how much they deserve to be criticized.
Scott's texting me just for the inside joke that my glasses are really crooked and my head's not right either. But what are you going to do? We've had a couple weeks off. Elliot, tell us some of the things that you write about, because again, what I like about, in addition to your little quips, and let's put Elliot's handle floating across the bottom there too. We didn't get it before the show here.
Mhm.
We're still, Elliot, what's your X handle so people can follow you?
Okay, so that would be L for Encino. I used to live in Encino. I was very active on the neighborhood council and other committees in there. I was also on the Van Nuys Citizens Advisory Council, which was another effort in futility, trying to rein in the noise and the growth of Van Nuys Airport and protect the neighborhoods in and around Van Nuys Airport.
Okay, so
anyway, I write
You want me to
about
give me your
things.
handle though.
My
what's your
handle
handle?
is L for Encino, LEL, number 4, Encino.
And you, by the way, you can pick up a lot of what Elliot is talking about. I publish him a lot in Netter News, and he gets published in City Watch because he writes. And again, I'm going to lead you along, Elliot, because I realize this isn't necessarily a talking head like me. He's actually a lot smarter, so he doesn't dare need to go on what we do. But the reality is, much of the time, what I like about what you write is you kind of say, how did we get here? What led us up to the point where the walls came tumbling down?
Well, thank you for that. But, you know, my latest piece in City Watch, which is getting a fair amount of attention, is pretty simple. It's Los Angeles at the breaking point, a city circling the drain. And I detail how the city is so broke that it can't even properly repave the roads. And there was a voter initiative in 2024 that barely passed, which was Measure HLA. And every time they repaved a road, they were supposed to stripe it properly, add bike lanes, add diagonal parking, and do other safety measures. And to date, almost 2 years since that measure passed, we have 400 yards of road that meet the conditions that Measure HLA told us they were going to do. And this is because of lack of money. And the lack of money comes from the fraud and the corruption
That's
that you
what I'm
guys were
leading
just
up to.
talking about.
Let's talk about that, because this is the part where I think the public gets misled all the time. And again, for everyone out there, when you hear about the billionaires tax in the news, for instance, for California, or what Measure HBCDEFG in Los Angeles, they always keep promising, if we just take a little more out of your pocket, we'll solve this problem. And it seems no matter how much they take out of our pocket, it's like there's a hole perpetually in our pocket, and we don't know where the money goes, but somebody's at the bottom of our pants leg collecting that, and it's not us, what we call corruption. What's some of the corruption that you've written about that you see in Los Angeles?
Well, you could start with the homeless. You know, $5 billion over the last 4 years have been spent on homelessness. And any trip through the city will tell you that the problem has not gotten better. It's probably gotten worse. And when they claim that homelessness has gone down 3%, it's probably because people have passed on through drug use and mental illness. Now, the thing here is homelessness, just like corruption and fraud, are probably too nice of words. We know these people are mentally ill drug addicts. And why can't we admit that they're mentally ill drug addicts? Because if we admit that, God forbid, we wouldn't have to build $800,000 homes. We could put them in rehab or give them a choice, rehab or jail. What other enlightened cities like Lisbon and Amsterdam do with their addicts, and they have very successful programs, but we won't get into it. But fraud and corruption, I think, is too nice a word. I think we really need to speak about grand larceny, racketeering, and those
No,
kinds of
look,
words.
I call it, I mean, the visual on it is smash and grab politics. You can call it
Mhm.
whatever you want. And this is an incredible example. I know this seems like a picture we've seen. It's kind of like, and Elliot, you and I talk all the time, and I talk all the time about billions and trillions, and we become immune to these numbers, and we kind of become immune to the tents on the street. And guys, I got to admit with you, I had an incredibly bad experience today. Scott, I even had told you about this. And I literally could not eat for most of the day. I shouldn't even tell you this on the air, but as part of what I do, I had to watch Gavin Newsom's State of the State. And I apologize to everyone out there for a minute. I actually watched it, but it's kind of my job. And leading to what you're kind of shoe boxing in what you're saying, Elliot, not only is homelessness down because they die, he goes, it's down over previous years because they let the number get so high. And we look at a mess like this, and we're just happy if there's 3 less tents and you can use that corner of the sidewalk. It almost seems like the Democrats, the liberals have kind of gotten us to accept this to happening until something big comes along, like the fires. And since yesterday was kind of, or I believe, yesterday was the anniversary of the fires. I believe you've written about that too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we need to check Newsom's pockets. Great comment. Does Newsom have offshore accounts? Hold on, I want to answer Sherry. He has offshore, onshore, vineyards. I want to make it clear to everybody out there. This isn't hard to find. Elliot puts it concisely. We're trying to get people to read it, okay, who aren't paying attention. For those of it, it's kind of like Tim Waltz in Minnesota. It's the Leering Center. It's not hard to find if you look up. In California, it's not hard to find. We need groups like what you call neighborhood council, people like Elliot, to pay attention and look around you. The fires, which happened a year ago, I'll get back to you 1 second, Elliot. Hold on, I may have a stroke. The show may be all yours. Happened because how many people drove by a really big swimming pool called a reservoir, walked around it, and saw the damn thing was empty? We should have been asking some questions. How many people looked around the reservoir simplistically, looked up on the hills and say, there should be a bunch of water here, and there's a bunch of brush there, no water here, brush there, and we should have had the ability to speak up before the disasters, see something, say something, and that's what Hilton and Morgan did this week that I tweeted about with their conference, their news conference, saying, look, there's fraud hotlines, tip lines, etc. Back to you, Elliot, on the fires.
Okay, well, on the fires, this is actually not so much fraud and corruption, unless you consider hiring a DEI CEO that had no experience running a Department of Water and Power that came from Pacific Gas and Electric, who's famous for their power lines dropping on dry brush and burning out large acreage in Northern California. Here. But basically, the fire was, how should I say, totally mishandled because there was no water, as you stated, in the reservoir. The reason why there was no water in the reservoir for over a year was they couldn't find a contractor to fix a hole in the cover of the reservoir. California has water quality standards, and so particulate matter could fall from the sky into the reservoir, and we need to cover all our reservoirs right now to protect it from pollution raining down from the sky and dust and dirt and sand blowing in there. And the problem is with that, not being able to find a contractor, as is my understanding. The Department of Water and Power has people totally capable of repairing that cover, but they decided not to use DWP personnel.
Correct. And what's interesting on that too, what's the cost of that cover? You remember it was like 835,000, or not even that, like 400,000, something like that?
No, I think it was about 800. Yeah.
Okay, 800,000. Now, for most of us, I realize that sounds like a fairly expensive cover. Elliot, what is the budget of Los Angeles, City of Los Angeles each year?
The City of Los Angeles probably has a $30 billion budget.
Okay, 30 billion. Scott, do you know the budget of the County of Los Angeles?
I'm
That's
guessing
about 45 billion.
45 billion.
Oh, I wanted to see him answer it. Okay. So I want you
Sorry.
folks to
Like
get your
he said,
no, that's okay. Don't worry about it. It's all good. I want you to get your arms around it. This is my big rant. Okay. Elliot's a smart guy and knows what's going on with this. I don't really want to know how my reservoirs or water system work. What I do know is this, being less intelligent than the average rat, that out of a $45 billion county budget, and how much did you say the city budget was?
Approximately 30 billion. Please don't
Okay,
fact
so
check me.
doing a quick math, about 70 billion between the two entities. Is that fair enough?
Mhm.
They couldn't find $800,000 to fix this damn cover. I mean,
Well,
that's like saying I can't find. Well, I don't know. I
they
would say
couldn't find the contractor, and they didn't want the personnel at the DWP to do this. And you and I all pay exorbitant water bills here. And not only that, every other day they're telling you to conserve water here. So there's no reason why this thing couldn't be fixed. And without the water, which was about 17 million gallons, which at the rate they were spraying the fire would have lasted for like 4.5 days here. We could have probably, mitigated the worst effects of the fire. But what is really annoying about all of this is that the fire department was up in Topanga State Park, where this fire was supposedly initially set, put out, and the fire department was not allowed to actually do the work to make sure that the smoldering embers in this part of the park were put out and couldn't reignite, because there could be some rare plants that the state of
hold it.
California
I have a
considered.
great news outtake on that. Let me share that. This is taken from Fox News.
yeah. Let's show this one.
2025 called the Lockman Fire, which the fire department failed to extinguish fully as it smoldered in the roots of plants. And we believe, and many others believe, that part of the reason that fire was never fully extinguished was that the state of California had a policy on parkland of not allowing heavy fire suppression equipment into areas that were considered sensitive, either because they had rare plants or because they possibly had cultural resources. And if you read the documents, these policies, which were crafted in late 2024, said that you could not suppress fire in the state park, which is right up against Pacific Palisades, unless you had an archaeologist present to tell you where you could and could not put out the fire. So as the result of these policies, you had this massive inferno that spread in high winds and that destroyed the plants and likely many of the cultural sites anyway.
Now I want to stop for 1 second here and a couple key points out of that. Those regulations out of that video were crafted in 2024. Let's be clear on that again. They were crafted in 2024, or recently, if I have the year wrong. I want you to really think about that. So I knew some blames things on CEQA and other things. These were just done. Another key point here is the frat freaks, which I call Newsom's rapid response team, responded to that quote on X and said, and again, pay attention to social media. We are the media today. And so, oh, that's not true. That's not the responsibility of the state. Those are the park dudes that are supposed to do that. It's state land, whether they're park dudes, it's moving accountability around. Now, gentlemen and Scott, or Elliot and Scott, hold your breath for 1 second, because I'm going to go conspiracy theory on you. This is where I believe the fraud and the corruption really get intertwined. I struggle to believe that people who have done this for a very long time, and I get it, the DEI fire chief, bad hire, bad hire, bad hire, but there are rank and file people which are good, who must see this going on, who have done this for 30 and 40 years and reported up the chain. First part of my conspiracy theory number one. Conspiracy theory portion number two. Did they really hope that some kind of disaster happens? Maybe not of this magnitude, because remember, where does the state take in more money that people can scam? When there is a disaster. I want to be clear on that. COVID went on for 3 years because Gavin Newsom can declare a disaster and get in federal funds. When it rains too hard, or what do we call them now? A bomb cyclone. Well, we used to call it rain, but we'll call them a bomb cyclone now. Much more dramatic, 2 words. They could take in federal money and federal funds. And then we don't know where that money goes because it gets passed through to state and to NGOs. Elliot, I want you to weigh in on that a little bit. Like the neighborhood watch, maybe? Have they whittled down the people that are supposed to be paying attention on the ground? Do you think any of, you could say yes or no, but it seems to me like some of it's almost intentional. Like we don't want people watching because we know sooner or later something bad's going to happen and we can take in a lot of money and we could distribute that money. Where to me, that's where corruption and fraud kind of intersect.
Well, you're absolutely right about that. And it's a vicious circle. I think the first thing that has to be done to rein in the corruption and fraud is we need to have less money in the system. All this money sloshing around here gives people an opportunity to steal. I'll be perfectly blunt about it.
No, steal is all right. You can be blunt. Steal is the right word because we don't know where it's going and it's missing. And Elliot, when I grew up, if I'm missing something and somebody took it and I don't know who they are, I was taught that's the definition of stealing. Am I missing something here?
No, you're not missing anything here, but now with critical criminal justice reform, that is a thing, just like critical race theory. We've turned everything upside down. Criminals are victims, and those of us who have a little bit are now oppressors. And so it's social justice for them to take any way they can, whether it's from a store owner, a department store, or, welfare fraud, SNAP, EBT, food stamps, and all this. And it's just a vicious circle. And I really like what Steve Hilton and state candidate controller Herb Morgan recently called California. They call it Calfraudia. And that's what we're living in here, Calfraudia. And we have to, every reasonable citizen has to start thinking clearly and make sure that these people are not a return. Because the bottom line here is that every time you go to a store and pay sales tax, every time you pay your income tax or a fee in the state of California, probably at a minimum, to imitate Mike here, 25% of that is going into unaccountable pockets here. And this is outrageous because this is stealing from us, the people here. It hurts your retirement. It hurts your lifestyle. And there is nothing in this state that isn't taxed except maybe your breathing.
What do you think? Now, you've seen and explored a lot of corruption in Los Angeles, in the county. Tell me some of the most blatant things in the last 2 years, 4 years, 5 years that you've seen. I read your articles, I talk about it. Some of this seems so blatant, you have to wonder, Elliot, don't take this the wrong way, but how the hell did nobody spot this? I mean, why does it take, sorry, a writer for City Watch? I know Elliot pretty well. I'm going to say it like a dude in Encino, a guy like Netter to say, hey, I mean, what are some of the most blatant things that you've seen?
Well, I think one of the things that has burned my butt the most is what's her name? Leica Adams, who's the head of the Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority, gave her husband a $2 million contract here. Another one that really upsets me a lot in California is you have all these NGOs, non-governmental organizations, who apparently are working for harm reduction on the homeless, drug addicts, mentally ill. And harm reduction means handing out a crack pipe, handing out a clean syringe. Now, these are state-sponsored, city-sponsored agencies. And exactly, what is the message when you're handing out clean syringes to shoot fentanyl? I mean, it is absolutely, it's like Maduro. Oh my God, he was sending in 45 tons of cocaine. That's horrible. But our city is aiding and abetting all these drug addicts. That's what's really horrible here. And so those are a couple of things here. And then, of course, you have, basically the state auditor had a report, a 92-page report, if I remember correctly, about a high-risk watch list for epic fraud, waste, and mismanagement. He says that the state's budget, which is about $300 billion, basically has about $76 billion on waste, fraud, and corruption.
And Scott, I want to add, like, you're in Orange County, right? And in Orange County, and by the way, it's not, I want to be clear here. We talk about left and right and Democrats and Republicans, but you had a Republican supervisor there. Tell us about that. You remember that? They got caught kind of pumping a bunch of money to his daughter.
Yeah, Andrew Doe, and he was forced to resign. And here he had, each supervisor had like $1 million slush fund that they could direct, theoretically benefiting their district in any form or any way that they wanted. But he directed it to his daughter's nonprofit. And whether she did work on it or not, whether she accomplished the scope or not, she was certainly enriched by it. And supposedly he even got kickbacks from his daughter. Mm-hmm. I think he went to jail just to keep his daughter out of jail.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because they say she bought a house with it, etc. But here's really, according to the point I'm trying to bring it up, the corruption which leads to fraud because the daughter hands money out is because, look, everyone out there, we have to stop believing that our government in California, that in Los Angeles, yes, even in Orange County, is supervising. They're not. And they're not.
Orange County, it's turning blue.
Well, they're supervising the money so it flows to them. I mean, right. Who got rich over the train, high-speed train to nowhere?
That is a great point. They're not, look, the video I put out today that this guy was commenting on Kylie's, I got news for you. They're not giving the money back. They've already been paid not to lay any track. The people in the NGOs, they're not giving the money back. When we say there are billions lost, they are lost. They're gone. See ya. Sayonara. Some of these people.
There's no accountability and there's no tracing the money, which is, basically the hallmarks of a racketeering RICO organization here. And,
but they're doing it. They're doing it very dismayed. Industrial scale.
I get very dismayed at the lack of prosecutions. I mean, these people are entrusted with our money, and it just goes out the door. And, every once in a while, one person gets caught, like maybe one a month, when there are absolutely probably thousands of people benefiting from this fraud.
Yeah, look at how much money Tim Walz has benefited from, at least politically, if there wasn't any personal gain, which we don't know. And they demand his resignation. And what happens? He decides not to run for a third term. Oh, whoopee-doo. He wasn't going to win re-election anyway. Give us something else. Lock the sucker in jail. I mean, look at what Gavin Newsom did. We got loaned COVID funds, and if you paid it back, no problem. If you didn't pay it back, then the employment tax increased to pay it back. It's $20 billion.
Yeah,
And
the state, it was 32 billion.
32 billion. So, tell me what Democrat, especially like Newsom, is going to sit there and say, hey, wait a minute. The feds gave us this money and the employers have to pay it back, and I don't have to do anything. It just automatically happens. I'm not going to be accused of raising taxes or whatever. It just happens. Well, hell, I'm not paying it back. And so every employer is paying it back. Why do you think they're leaving the state?
I want to bring up a couple things here today. Again, I post a lot. We do make a difference. Okay. But just in the last, as I was trying to prepare for the show, it is literally hard to get up. And by the way, I want to throw in Andrew Doe so we have an example of a Republican. Okay. Because again, this is human behavior. But 99% of them, oddly enough, are Democrats. What I've just posted in the last hour. Georgia State Rep Karen Bennett has been federally indicted for fraud. Bennett is a Black Lives Matter and Defund the Police activist. She's the second Georgia lawmaker charged with defrauding taxpayers in the last month. Okay? The list goes on and on. I could spend the entire...
At least they're investigating and throwing those guys in jail in Georgia. They're not doing that in California.
In a bombshell move, this is important. I'm going to retweet this right now because, again, the reason I've got Elliot on tonight, Brad Pitt didn't accept our invite, but outside of that, Elliot was our next choice, is that citizens journalism, small people, big people, what you see, what you say, what Nick Shirley did, what Scott's doing, what I'm doing matters. And here's another outlet for you. And this is why I'm saying this did not get reported that I saw today. Look, on both sides, I'm sorry ICE had to shoot somebody. I'm sorry it happened in Portland again today. And I'm really sorry these stupid people are convinced by other stupid people to go out there and interfere with law enforcement. Don't do it, bad move. You disagree, find another way. You don't interfere anybody with a badge and a gun. But here's what doesn't get reported when this comes up. Thank you very much. It's like Dan Rather.
It's Ventura. Come on.
I know. It kind of looks like Dan Rather from this point of view.
This is the lady that got killed by ICE in Minnesota.
And by the way,
we tried to ram an officer with
her
with
wife
car.
said she felt guilty because she wasn't even from there. She had go in there. But here's the thing. In a bombshell move today, they are now creating a new, and I fact checked this, everybody, a new nationwide assistant attorney general position dedicated to prosecuting fraud starting in Minnesota. It's going to be for California too. What you have to understand, everybody out there, I'm reposting that right now because I want
this is U.S. attorneys, just so everybody knows, they're usually held by districts, and they are basically the federal DA, right? They're the federal prosecutor. So you're basically saying that they've got a U.S. attorney now specifically assigned for fraud investigations wherever they may take it.
nationwide, correct. That's what they're doing.
Wow.
And the reason things like
They'll have to set up a big office in California.
yeah, the tip line, everything else there. And I know Elliot and I have gotten a few comments. They're like, why don't you prosecute everybody at once and do this, that, and the other? I want you to think of it. It's like Bondi isn't doing this, that, and the other. Here's the thing, everybody out there. I want you to think of it, what we have. and Elliot, I want to get your feedback on this term. I make it up as I go because I could do it. This is my show. It's a fraud and corruption riot. When too many people spill on the streets and there's an uprising, law enforcement has to call on resources. They cannot handle a spillover of a Black Lives Matter riot, et cetera, et cetera. We literally, in defense of my friends like Bill Asali and the others that I know they don't even have the personnel to start prosecuting this along with the everyday stuff they're supposed to. So give me your feedback on that, because literally there is so much fraud. I don't even see how they're equipped to prosecute all these cases.
Well, you're correct. The federal government does not have the resources here. But what is unfortunate is that California has become such a one-party state. There are absolutely no checks and balances. I mean, the DAs are blue here, the judges are blue, the legislature is blue, the city council is blue, the county commissioners, supervisors are blue, the governor's blue, the lieutenant governor is blue, the state treasurer is blue. So there's no checks and balances, and basically the whole tax structure and everything like that is a giant laundry machine. They're laundering money to each other. Money goes out to the NGOs here, and while they skim off exorbitant six-figure salaries, they also know that their election campaigns coffers are going to be filled with some of that money they just handed out the door. I mean, how much does a crack pipe cost to give to an addict here? I mean, where are the benefits? The benefits are, if you want to be, financially secure, you got to work for a non-governmental agency or a state agency here and play the game. And God forbid you should criticize it, because that's your ticket to be shown the door. But if you play the game, you can be very financially secure here. And so till we take back this state here somehow, like get a candidate in like Steve Hilton here and other people who have made vows to, end the corruption in the state and reduce taxes, we're always going to be suffering from, bad roads, bad infrastructure, bad bridges, you name it.
So I'm going to explain a little bit more bluntly some of the things you just said. One of the things is that these NGOs get contracts, and so all these do-gooders go to work for the NGOs. But part of that NGO getting money is direct campaign contributions then to the politician that gave him the grant. So
Correct.
Newsom sits there and says, okay, for fire aid, we're going to give this much money to this NGO. And the NGO does not provide any actual fire aid, but he definitely gives campaign contributions to Newsom. In fact, Prop 50 was the big beneficiary of that, literally in the tunes of millions, to the point where Newsom was saying, we have enough money, don't send any more.
Well, what's outrageous here was that they had that wonderful concert for, fire aid concert for victims of the Pacific Palisades fire. They raised $100 million, which is a phenomenal amount of money. And so at least 90 million of that is unaccountable or has gone to the first partner, meaning Governor Newsom's wife, here, NGO. Like God knows where that NGO the money or what they've done with that money. It is just outrageous here. And so actually what we do is we have a feudal system here in California. If Newsom was the king, he's giving all his vassals this money, and then the vassals go out and loot the peasants and then give the king all this money so the king can give all his vassals and knights more money to go loot the public. And this is done through taxes.
And that's where I want to kind of end our show to stress a couple things. Elliot, whether you're out in Encino, Scott, Orange County, or anybody out there, here's really the bottom line of fraud, separate from corruption, where corruption is enabling people to commit more fraud. Corruption tends to be outside money so they can breed more fraud. It's a circular cycle. And the way to break that cycle is to give them less money to play with. There are 3 petitions right now that will roll it across our screen that are going to enable us to keep money away from the government and give them less, and make sure that our elections stay more honest so there's less corruption. The first one is voter ID. Thanks to Carl DeMaio and everybody up and down the state, we're almost there. That will help with our elections and quash some of the corruption. Save Prop 13, which you think of typically as simply, what's my property tax? It was a lot more than that. It required a 2/3 majority to raise taxes. They're trying to chop it down. You have got to get the petition signed so we can get on the ballot to take back, to control how they raise our taxes. Because I got news for you. The more they have to play with, the more disappears. And the other one, and Ellie, you may have not have heard this, so I don't want you to be too shocked. Scott, I don't want you to be too shocked. You guys ready?
I'm shocked. Oh, I'm just practicing.
Public unions are kind of crooked. And the California Teachers Association, who really doesn't give a damn about your kids, and coupled with the SEIU, is funding a lot of this, whatever kind of corruption / fraud. The CEO Act, which is really the school choice for California, will allocate that money out of the system back to the parents, giving them a choice. And I get all the genderology, and we're all against it, but scoreboard is we keep funneling money into them. We could take our money back for our education. Those 3 right now are what I want you to do to make sure that you do what you can to take back our state. There are elections coming up. There are Facebook groups. There's social media. We are the media. Elliot, give me a few last words for the show, not for your lifetime.
Starve the state.
Perfect. Scott.
Yeah, he's like star of the state. Absolutely, we need to get rid of the money source, because if they don't have the money, it can't happen. But I think the most effective thing that we can do, because we can't make these changes because we don't have the votes, is voter ID. If we have to have voter ID and people start only being able to vote on election day, which is not part of that same initiative, and we eliminate or minimize voter fraud, then we have a shot at getting real representatives up in Sacramento that will vote these things in.
I agree. And the thing that's so amazing to me is that our Democratic brothers and sisters up in Sacramento are against voter ID. And that's everything you need to know, that they're against voter ID, about how transparent and fair California elections are.
We're going to continue our show next week. We're going to be talking about transparency. I don't even know if we have a guest because we're going to be talking so much about it. But for everyone out there, let's sink into what I said at the beginning. We will be back. I hear SB 1174 just passed. Scott, can you look up what that is for me? I'm not up on my entire slew of numbers here. Okay.
I'm sorry, you said SB what?
1174. Senate Bill, State Senate Bill 1174. I'm sure it wasn't good.
Cal Matters is reporting that 1174. Now this one is, I'm sorry, this elections voter identification. basically not allowing any other city or district to implement.
So they want to quash what they did in Huntington Beach. That's the one. Thank you, Stephanie. And Stephanie's right. Nope. Stephanie says nope. Okay. So who knows? We'll get, hold on one second. Stephanie, you've got me curious here as one of our viewers. Let's take a quick look before we end.
Yeah. I'll look it up in the Ledge Info
The
site.
bill would prohibit a local government from enacting or enforcing any charter provision, ordinance, or regulation requiring a person to present ID.
That's
You know what it is? There's a couple. They restart every year. That's the 2024 version of it. So we'll look that up later. Stephanie, thanks. We'll make sure I'll be putting that up there. They start bills every year. I'll get into that later here. Neither here nor there. Here's how I want to end the show. We are the media now. We get fooled and we talk about what the media decides to show us. 100 million views for me, rah, rah, sis, boom, bah, that too can be you. Take your republic into your own hands by signing this initiative. You got ideas? Give them to people like me, to give to people who can write like Elliot, and we'll turn them into articles. And then we have the ability to distribute them like I do in Netter News. The reality is, it is your state, and it's up to you to do something about it. You need to take control by using what we have to make sure that we take back the state from both the corrupt politicians who are letting fraud fall down from the sky right in front of us. It's up to you. No one's coming to save you. The feds will come in for a while, but unless you, as a person who resides, lives, and votes, does something in California, you don't have to be me. You don't have to yell as loud, but you need to exercise your voice, because your voice, as I started the show off, is getting heard. Speak up a little louder, pound the keyboard a little harder, show up at a few more events. God bless you. Good night. California Free Radio. We shall be back next week at 6:30. And we're out.